It is just 5 short years since joyous Americans celebrated the end of World War II, but American troops will again be in combat this year of 1950 as North Korea invades South Korea and the Korean War begins. It'll officially be classified as a United Nations police action, but American land, air, and sea forces will play the dominant role, commanded by General Douglas MacArthur, hero of World War II. The Korean War will bring us to the brink of another more extensive conflict as Chinese troops will invade Korea when the advancing UN forces reach their borders. With the aggressive power of communism viewed as a worldwide threat to peace and freedom, and the secret of the atom bomb now in the hands of the Soviets, President Truman authorizes development of the hydrogen bomb, many times more powerful than the weapons that ended World War II. This year will also see our first involvement in Vietnam. We will send 35 military advisors there. But world peace is still our dream. The UN building will be completed in New York, and an American, Ralph Bunche, will win the Nobel Peace Prize for his work in bringing peace to the Middle East. This and much more is the year 1950. Let's watch.
Tremendous weight of America's unbeatable Air Force gets set for the drive on North Korean troops and positions. B-29s at March Field in California prepare for that first long jump. General Emmett O'Donnell, commander of the 15th Air Force, sees the grim preparation of these bombers that mean strictly business. They're off for the confused fighting in Korea, a fight we never wanted but which has been forced on us by Russian greed in Asia. United States bombers in swiftly growing numbers wing their way to the trouble zone. Thousands of miles of Pacific air lanes stretch between takeoff and targets, but soon the bombs will drop. The Asiatic spearhead of Korea off the China mainland is the objective of U.S. troops, planes, and equipment designed to halt the communist-inspired drive of the North Koreans. Yank gun crews ready for action, determined to repel the invaders driving south of the 38th parallel. American planes are casualties of war as the Yank thrust seeks to establish a strong position. Wounded pilots are evacuated as the going gets tough. Bone-weary crews, nearly dead for sleep after the grind of battle, take time out to regain strength for the return to combat. Wounded get an airlift to Japan for treatment. An ever-increasing flow of fighting power and supplies heads for the battle zone. The United States means business, and with the United Nations support is out for victory in the cause of peace. The American-trained Korean Army holds on until the Yanks arrive. At Camp Pendleton, California, rank upon rank of battle equipment awaits the long haul across the Pacific. Commanding officers watch a review and salute the flag with stern purpose as the 1st Marine Division is alerted for the Korean battle. The President has said we are not at war, but the United States, champion of democracy, sponsor of world peace, and defender of the oppressed, has been pushed around to the limit. From here on out, America will take steps. a 4-year-old dives into the sporting headlines. He's Bubba Tongay of St. Louis, and he has big plans for this summer. Sister Kathy, age 3, creates quite a splash herself by following Bubba off the high board. So, Big Brother goes up 11 feet higher to show who's boss. What makes Bubba Tongay big news is the fact that he intends to swim the English Channel. I'll repeat, English Channel. With help from Daddy and Sis, the talented tyke who's already swum 22 miles down the Mississippi goes for a stiff workout in the Atlantic Ocean. Husky beyond his years and with a well-coordinated stroke that's simply amazing for his age, young Bubba gets in shape for the greatest of all swimming feats. David had Goliath, and Bubba's got the channel. He's no landlubber, this Bubba. Buddy Toomey of Washington, D.C. is a fellow who lives dangerously and likes it. Here's Buddy's latest wrinkle in high-caliber thrills. Shooting out of a cannon for a jump of 65 feet at the Trenton Fairgrounds. The stunt won the Atlantic City Steel Pier Award, but it doesn't always work. Four-leaf clovers and Irish luck smile on Buddy, a daredevil who's created quite a bang with his Big Bertha leap. Yes, sir, Buddy's got the range on thrills. The big boys, our B-29s, go upstairs. This is a refueling test just released by the Pentagon. Preview of the type of operation projected by the Air Force for action such as that encountered on the Korean battlefront. The telescopic fuel boom delivers high octane. This makes it possible for U.S. aircraft to refuel in flight more rapidly and at higher altitudes than was possible with the former hose reel method. The Boeing company designed this revolutionary method of gassing up. The boom's pilot is officially known as Clancy because he's the guy who lowers the boom. The liner Queen Mary brings a pair of kings to Britain. Lou Abbott and Bud Costello, stars of the forthcoming Universal International movie In the Foreign Legion, give their imitation of themselves.
Hey, boy.
Well, it's nice to be here, isn't it?
Wonderful, wonderful. Don't smoke while you're on board.
Isn't it nice to be back here in France?
France?
Yeah.
Oh, just stop, France.
What is this?
This is England, good old England.
Oh, London. England, yeah.
Yeah. Stop smoking while you're on board. I told you about that.
Who's smoking? Who's smoking?
You are.
What makes you think I'm smoking?
You've got a cigar in your mouth.
I got my shoes on, but I ain't walking.
Now, look, where's the bow of the boat?
That's over there.
And the stern of the boat.
That's over there.
And the port?
That's in the icebox.
Oh, stop.
Oh, come on.
Lou and Bud are on hand for a tour which will delight their many admirers among the moviegoers of England. Their clowning is definitely international. The good ladies of the College Park, Georgia Women's Club join forces and millinery talents for a Mad Hatter show. The gals designed the hats and they model them, thank you. Why Mad Hats? Well, sir, you can place the blame squarely on the doorstep of the husbands of these trailblazers in fashion. Too long has Mama endured the stinging remarks from Papa about her bonnet looking like an inverted flower pot or a tired pancake. With fiendish feminine logic, Mama went Papa one better. She came up with a surrealistic topper that the old boy couldn't possibly confuse with something by Lily Daché. Now, if he says it looks like a P-51, darn if it don't. And give that man one free ride on the carousel. That'll make hubby's head spin. You gotta hand it to the Mad Hatters. They knows their hats. America musters her forces as the Korean crisis daily becomes more grave. Enlistment machinery begins to click as the United States is made the spearhead of the United Nations police force against Northern Korean invaders. Particular emphasis is placed on the Marine Corps, long the troubleshooting outfit on foreign soil. While badly outnumbered, Americans and their allies fight a desperate rearguard action on the Asiatic continent. Marine reinforcements are rushed to the scene from West Coast ports of embarkation. The Leathernecks typify the nation's mood of mobilization since the Red sneak attack on Southern Korea. They leave to join the first officially approved United Nations police force to stem the Korean communists who are driving Americans and Southern Koreans into retreat along a wide front. Facing overwhelming numerical and armored strength of a red-trained army, the Allies retreat southward to regroup and set up a new defense line. GIs dig in along the Coom River in a desperate rearguard action. Artillery rushed in by air goes into action. Against heavily armored columns, the Allies fight desperately to maintain the ever-increasing supply lines coming to the front. But the battle is not always successful. One ammunition train is bombed and completely demolished, a grievous blow to the cause of invaded and ravished southern Korea. But the United Nations forces begin to tighten their defense, and American tanks begin to make their appearance. Although outgunned and outnumbered, they play a large part in slowing the Red advance. The tragic cost of maintaining the peace. Here are the first Americans who paid with their lives, and some of these were taken prisoner, bound, and shot to death by their captors. Already America has suffered 500 casualties, and 40 have paid with their lives. 5 short years after a global war, Americans again pay in blood the price of peace. Leader among the free nations of the earth, her sons once more make the supreme sacrifice. Under the banner of the United Nations, Americans lead the way in the fight against tyranny and slavery throughout the world. Comiskey Park, Chicago, scene of the first All-Star Classic, finds Casey Stengel, Commissioner Chandler, and Bert Schotten primed for this year's Dream Game. Big names in big leagues, Musial of the Cards and Kennel of Detroit. The brothers DiMaggio, Joe of New York and Dom of Boston. And baseball's grand old man, Connie Mack of the Athletics, who managed the American League team in the All-Star inaugural, does the honors, and the 17th edition of this great mid-season classic goes to press. Now for the highlights. In the second inning, with Vic Raschi of the Yanks pitching for the junior circuit, and with one on for the National Leaguers, Enos Slaughter of the Cards takes aim. Slaughter slams a long one to deep left center, and ahead of him around the base path races Jackie Robinson of the Dodgers. As Robinson comes home to score, Slaughter slides safely into third with a triple, the game's first RBI. Hank Sauer of the Cubs steps in. It's a long fly ball to right for Sauer, and after the catch, Slaughter scampers home, making it 2-0 for the Senior League. 46,000 fans see plenty of action in the fifth. Ted Williams up, 2 out. The score tied up, 2-all. And Ted hits Don Newcomb for a drive into short right that scores Larry Doby and puts the American League All-Stars out front. Ralph Kiner leads off the ninth. Holloman of Detroit pitching. Can kiss that one goodbye. It's into the left field bleachers, and the Pirates' home run slugger Ralph Kiner has hit the first homer of the 1950 All-Star game. And now it's a tied-up ball game at 3-all. A mighty important one-up for Big Ralph and for the National Leaguers, who haven't won an All-Star game since 1944. It goes into extra innings, scoreless innings, until the 14th, when pitcher Ted Gray of Detroit gets tagged by Red Shane Dienst of the Cardinals. Another home run for the underdog National Leaguers, and this one by Shane Dienst puts them out in front, and that's how it ended. The favorite American League All-Stars failed to score in their half of the 14th, and the senior circuit wins 4-3 for its 5th victory in 17 starts. Home, sweet home run. Jake LaMotta, the Bronx Bull, disguised as a leopard, readies for his bout with Tiberio Mitri, the Tiger from Trieste. The middleweight bout at Madison Square Garden is attended by Mrs. LaMotta and Mrs. Mitri. Also at the fisticuffs are such celebrities as Governor Dewey and Eddie Egan, New York Boxing Commission chairman. Jake won the title from Marcel Cerdan of France and is out to repeat. That's LaMotta in the dark trunks. It's definitely LaMotta's night. His jet-powered lefts puff Mitri's eyes and continually keep the challenger off balance. So far, Mitri is unbeaten in 52 scraps. Jake is out for number 78 out of 94. In the 13th and 14th, Mitri staged a rally that came too late. By then, he was a badly beaten tiger. Ring up another for LaMotta. He really earned the title again tonight. Mitri never had a chance. It's a sweet victory for Jake. Mitri was the fans' favorite, but LaMotta had it all over the tiger from Trieste. The tiger left his claws at home. In Washington, former President Herbert Hoover bestows the Boys Clubs of America Golden Keystone on FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover for outstanding service to our nation's youth. Mr. Hoover accepts the award with these cogent and timely remarks.
We who are engaged in law enforcement see the results daily in the ungoverned activities of teenage boys and girls who are responsible for a percentage of crime out of all proportion to their age group. This is indeed a serious indictment of parenthood.
B-29 Super Forts, now classed as medium bombers, take up where they left off after the conquest of Japan. Today the target is Korea. Crews and ships less than 8 days after being alerted in the United States are ready for takeoff from their island bases to blast communications of the invading North Koreans. Flying under the banner of the United Nations, with the moral backing of 52 nations, they seek out rail yards and supply lines. For these air veterans, there is once again the familiar cry of, "Bombs away!" On the home front, a very serious President Truman tells the nation that the issue has been joined and that communist aggression must be stopped.
The fact that communist forces have invaded Korea is a warning that there may be similar acts of aggression in other parts of the world. Free nations must be on their guard, more than ever before, against this kind of sneak attack. The free nations have now made it clear that lawless aggression will be met with force. The free nations have learned the fateful lesson of the 1930s. That lesson is that aggression must be met firmly. Appeasement leads only to further aggression and ultimately to war.
The President asks for partial wartime powers. He also asks for an increase of $10 billion in defense appropriations with a possible tax rise. This he explains by saying,
"We know that the cost of freedom is high, but we are determined to preserve our freedom no matter what the cost."
New fashions in fall hosiery feature bejeweled creations, 2 separate colors on a stocking, and a variety of designs appliqued by an electronic process. Hollywood inspired, they go into mass production as the stocking of the stars. This preview in New York provides a revealing glimpse of high-style hosiery, wearing which a gal can ankle along in perfect confidence. The sansonette appears fluted when off the leg, but on the wearer fans into perfectly smooth texture. It discourages unsightly wrinkles and crooked seams. To such revolutionary ideas, we can only bow the knee. 15,000 fans are on hand at the Polo Grounds in New York to see a heartwarming game of baseball. A team of veteran amputees has challenged the Broadway Hollywood All-Stars with Dizzy Dean, one of the opposing pitchers, in a benefit for the National Amputation Foundation. Assistant Mayor Impellitteri and elder statesman Bernard Baruch give the boys an official send-off. In Mr. Baruch's words, we owe them a double gratitude. They were the great heroes of the war. Here they are showing us what they can do under handicap. Bill Marino lost his left arm in action in Germany, but as far as the crowd is concerned, Bill's right is more than a match for the All-Stars. The infield swings into action, and the Amps retire the side. They're playing heads-up ball, and they go on to win, 7-6. Despite their disabilities, they prove there's no job too tough for them to handle. Before an appreciative audience in Madrid, the Argentine billiard ace Carreras demonstrates some of the amazing tricks in his repertoire. Watch this amazing little maneuver. He covers a lot of ground with this one. They can hardly believe their eyes, which is Senor Carreras' cue to try another novelty number on his astounded audience. The Senor recently was proclaimed world's billiard champion here in Spain, and nobody watching him in action today will quibble about that. Carreras exerts a magnetic influence on the little white ball. When it's done moving away from the Argentinian wizard, it just can't resist coming back again. Of course, it's in no great hurry.
Yes, it was a big year in sports. Never were so many spectators thrilled and chilled by so much sporting excitement dished up red hot by so many top-notch teams and individual stars. Boxing had its share of fans, its share of flying fists and action-packed climaxes. For some, the trail led to fame and title. For others, it was a rocky road to defeat. Big news of the year was the meteoric rise to the heavyweight title of Ezzard Charles, who climbed to the top over the faltering Lewis. "They're off" was the cry that brought cheers to racing fans and brought new names to the winner's circle in the sport of kings. And one of the brightest names of 1950 was Hill Prince, Christopher Chenery's fleet 3-year-old. First in the Preakness, second in the Derby, winner of the Wood Memorial and the Withers Mile, Hill Prince was named Horse of the Year. There were thrills, too, at Aintree, where England's big race of the year, the Grand National Steeplechase, had more than its usual quota of spine-tingling, bone-bruising spills. Many started, few finished this grueling test of man and mount. Victory was in the balance till the very last jump. Baseball, and two big stories of the year. The Yankees wrote the first one. Again, they won the American League pennant. Baseball's second big story concerned Commissioner Happy Chandler and the surprise vote of the club owners at year's end not to renew his contract. Baseball said to Happy Chandler, "You're out." The big story in basketball was written in capital letters by the Beavers of City College. The speedy, sharp-shooting Cagers from New York sent the blood pressure of their fans soaring as they swept to victory over the top teams of the nation. The Beavers won the National Invitation Tournament, the National Collegiates, to hit a jackpot unprecedented in basketball. 1950 will long be remembered by Coach Nat Holman and his eager Beavers from CCNY. A grid season that saw Notre Dame beaten 4 times and Navy sink the Army saw the Oklahoma Sooners extend their unbeaten streak to 31 and wind up #1 on football's hit parade. Led from the tee and to a tee by quarterback Claude Arnold, the Sooners went through the season unbeaten and untied. They made touchdown a synonym for thrills, and the fans hollered for more. The Sooners had Arnold and halfback Billy Bessels and fullback Leon Heath and Jim Weatherall, everybody's choice for All-American, in the line, and blocking, wow, as they rolled on to national acclaim. In a year of football ups and downs, Oklahoma was up at the top. Thrills are where you find them, and our roving cameraman found them everywhere. Ever in search of action and excitement, he set up shop at the rodeo and found that there's still a lot of wild in the Wild West and a lot of bounce in a bull. In Spain, the top sporting thrill was still the bullfight, and the matador who makes a misstep is still lucky to live for another crack at El Toro. For matador and picador, the bull, he is one awful bore. Sledding on treacherous steep bank icy runs. Trouble strikes with lightning speed for those who risk their necks in this winter sport. A mixture that spells danger every time. Motorcycling on a sand track. These mechanical bronco riders tried it and got thrown for a loss. Every turn is a nightmare. Every rider a candidate for first aid. A Donnybrook on wheels. For a freewheeling spectacle of speed and spills, the 6-day bike race rated high with the spectators. The pedal pushers really pile on the excitement with a bang. A pretty lake, a pretty girl, and water skiing. But pretty is as pretty does, and it's pretty rough on the sea-going slatmen who fly through the air only to come in for a crash landing. Water is as hard as concrete when you hit it wrong. Water skiing, snow skiing. There's a ski thrill for every climb and every time. One of Jack Frost's most eye-filling thrills is the ski jump. Here's a symphony of skis in slow motion. There are some who make it and some who don't. For them, it's rough. Ski jumping is a school of hard knocks, and every slope is paved with broken bones and broken dreams. Hey, wait for me. Slalom is skiing with a swing and a sway, a picturesque test of a ski bird's adroitness and skill in navigating the closely spaced markers. But for downright all-out speed, the downhill race on a scenic mountain slope is one of the winter's most breathtaking spectacles. There's many a slip twixt start and finish, many a sitzplatz on a snow-covered hill, but still they come all out for sport. Yes, 1950 was a big year in sports, opening up new and bigger vistas for tomorrow.
United Nations forces make a lightning thrust on the west coast port of Incheon. As the invasion fleet nears land, there is feverish activity in the amphibious force. For them, it is D-Day, -1, and landing operations will soon begin. In one of the most brilliant strategic moves of the Korean conflict, elements of the 77th Task Force set the stage for invasion. An end run behind the North Korean lines. Destroyers open up. Rockets take it from there. With Walmy Island guarding the harbor softened up, Marines swarm into landing craft for the attack. Under cover of a continuous barrage of rocket fire, the whole harbor of Incheon is brought under control. But the real test lies ahead. As the landing craft head for the beach, they face an unknown strength in the Incheon garrison. Once again, the Marines are sticking their leather necks out. With the 7th Infantry Division and South Korean allies, 40,000 men are involved in the operation. The largest single United Nations undertaking since the outbreak of hostilities. Weeks of preparation and practice have gone into the thrust that catches Red Koreans completely by surprise. Incheon is softened up as the Marines hit the beach, and they land almost at will on the island of Walmy. From here, they must cross the causeway leading into the city of Incheon itself. With the landing successfully accomplished, and with the Navy in command of the coast, the next stop is Seoul, Korea's ancient capital. General MacArthur pays a surprise visit to the Incheon front to observe personally the brilliant achievement. The United Nations Commander-in-Chief gets a first-hand look at the results of planning. But with North Korean forces racing from the south and another column from the Manchurian border, UN forces lose no time in their drive on Seoul. Tanks blast their way through opposition. Here's a close one for GI and cameraman. This is the road to Seoul and the beginning of victory. Backing General MacArthur's charge that Russia is aiding the North Koreans, United States Delegate Warren Austin produces a captured Soviet-made machine gun for examination by members of the Security Council. Soviet Delegate Malik remains stony-faced as it is passed around. But when it comes his turn to examine the weapon, the former president of the council declines, possibly because he knows what one looks like, and takes one of his frequent walks. But his exit does not stop inspection of the gun. And after his departure, it is passed over his empty chair and goes on to the Indian delegate. It is in an atmosphere of tension that the 277th plenary session of the United Nations meets. A new alternate United States delegate, Mrs. Edith Sampson, is joined by Secretary of State Atchison and Warren Austin. Foreign Minister Andrei Vyshinsky reads some American headlines that may give him food for thought. For it is on the question of whether United Nations forces will continue across the 38th parallel that much of the debate will center. Never has the Assembly met with more fateful issues to resolve. The seating of Communist China, the overriding of the Soviet veto to censure North Korea are on the ominous agenda. Secretary Atchison makes another and eloquent plea for peace throughout the world.
Peace the world wants must be free from fear. The fear of invasion, the fear of subversion, the fear of the knock on the door at midnight.
Yankee Stadium, home of baseball's immortal Babe Ruth, is the scene of the third and fourth games of the 1950 World Series, with the Yanks leading the Philadelphia Phillies 2-0. Highlights of game number 3. 7th inning, Ed Lopat going for New York, scored tied 1-1. Mike Goliath lines it to center, sending Hamner home from second with the run that puts the Whiz Kids ahead for the first time in the series. But then comes the 8th, and Ken Heinzelman, the Phil's starting pitcher, walks into trouble. Coleman and Berra have been given free passes, and now Heinzelman walks the jolter, Joe DiMaggio, to load him up. So Eddie Sawyer calls for Jim Constanti, his ace relief hurler who started the first game for Philadelphia. Enter Constanti, exit Heinzelman, and the stage is set for Bobby Brown and a bad break for the Phils. Brown's grounder is bobbled, and Coleman races across to tie up the game 2 runs apiece. 9th inning, Constanti trying to put out the fire. Woodling in scoring position at second. Jerry Coleman comes through again. Woodling comes home, and the Yankees are 1 game away from winning the series. The champs are ahead in the 4th game, with Yogi Berra facing Constanti. Yes, Constanti again, and the Yanks' great catcher belts one into the right field seats. The second home run of the 1950 series. Both Yankee and Yogi's puts the American Leaguers out front, 3-0. For Bobby Brown, it's hit number 4 for the Classic, a series clutch hitter for the Yanks, and this 6th inning wallop confuses the Clipper. DiMaggio backtracks, thinking the ball may be caught, but it isn't, and Joe makes for home, and Brown goes in with a triple. Hank Bauer lifts a long fly to left, sending Sizzler deep to haul it in. Plenty of time for Brown to tag along home to make it 4-0 for the Bronx Bombers. Rookie Whitey Ford has 1 out to go when Semenuk lofts one deep to left, but the ball gets away from Woodling, and 2 Whiz Kids whiz across the plate. From 5-0, it's 5-2. The Phils have the tying run at the plate. That's all for young Mr. Ford. Casey Stengel is forced to play his ace, Allie Reynolds, to face pinch hitter Lopata. And that's all for the Whiz Kids. Reynolds gets his man out swinging, and it's all over. The Yanks have won in a sweep, the 6th time they've done it, and their 13th World Series victory. Alabama versus Vanderbilt at Mobile, the day's big game in the Southeastern Conference, and a break for Vanderbilt as Berry intercepts in the early stages of the game. That brings Bill Wade into the picture, and the first of some dazzling passes. Wade gets it away. And Bucky Curtis gathers it in and heads for home on a touchdown play covering 85 yards. The underdog Commodores are out in front, and they stay there. Later in the first period, Wade cocks his arm again. His aim is deadly, and there's that fella Curtis on the receiving end for a net gain of 55 yards. Next play, Wade going into action, and he uncorks one that Cook snares for another Vandy score. Alabama's Crimson Tide quickly turns, with Bobby Marlowe riding the crest for a 54-yard surge through the Commodore line. Ed Salem sneaks through right tackle, Alabama bound to keep the Crimson Tide and hometown rooters very much alive. Alabama notches 6 more points when Avenger's toss is taken by Al Larry in the end zone, but Vanderbilt is still out front, and Bill Wade is still clicking in the bullseye department. Wade to Cook for 30 yards. Wade's right arm turns the tide, and Vanderbilt upsets Alabama 27-22.
Tiny Wake Island, a pinpoint in the vast Pacific, again makes history. Here it was that a handful of Marines stood off Jap attacks for days, and here it is that President Truman, after an 8,000-mile flight, has his first meeting with General MacArthur, whom he has come to consult on the progress of the Korean War and the general Far Eastern situation. In a simple radio shack, momentous decisions are reached in strict privacy. Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Omar Bradley, is also among the President's advisors. Before they part at the airfield to resume their individual tasks, President Truman reads a richly merited citation and pins the 4th oak leaf cluster on a soldier who already wears almost every decoration a grateful nation can offer. It is the reward for his direction of the hard-pressed United Nations and U.S. forces. While momentous decisions are reached on Wake Island, the mighty battleship Missouri, her 16-inch guns rising to firing position, carries out her United Nations mission along the Korean coast. Defense Department pictures show the precision with which the giant battle wagon hurls its 1-ton projectiles onto a pinpointed target. The powder bag goes in the breech of the gun, and the big boys are unlimbered and ready for action to soften up enemy strong points. These are the monsters that have spearheaded amphibious landings, which have led to successful encircling movements. In seconds, they will pour a hail of steel onto enemy installations. The target is zeroed, and they let loose. Shore batteries reply and score a near miss. The Big Mo scores a knockout. The Carthay Circle Theater in Hollywood welcomes a 6-foot, 3½ inch rabbit to its hospitable portals. Movie fans turn out in droves to see the premiere of Harvey and admire Yvonne DiCarlo and other celebrities, including Howard Duff and Piper Laurie. Universal International's sparkling feature picture starring Jimmy Stewart brings out one of the biggest audiences in the film capital's history. Peggy Dow of the cast makes a personal appearance, as does another top movie star, Donald O'Connor, who gets a big hand.
I don't know whether I should be here or not. Francis said Harvey was cutting in on his territory, you know. But,
he's coming up right behind you, I have a feeling.
Is it back of us now?
I have a feeling that he...
Oh, no.
Anthony Curtis, a shining light in the film constellation, attends the opening, and of course it would not be complete without Mary Chase, author of the wonderful comedy. Luella Parsons, confidant of the motion picture colony, arrives with Scott Brady. Hedda Hopper tells you all about it, and Harvey is all ears.
This is the second time I've seen this picture. I adore it. I think you will too. And I think Jimmy Stewart will probably get a second Oscar for his performance in Harvey. Thank you so much. And if you're seeing rabbits, I am too.
Here's hoping we'll all see Harvey. Dallas, Texas, and highlights of the Texas-Oklahoma game. The Sooners of Oklahoma, proud possessors of the longest winning streak in football, shake Billy Vessels loose around end for a 20-yard gain. On the next play, Leon Heath breaks loose for another chunk of yardage. He almost gets away, but the Texans ride herd and rope him in just shy of the goal line. So Mr. Heath tries again and makes it to give his team a 6-point edge. Oklahoma's Bill Vessels launches another scoring try, but a Longhorn horns in on the play. Dillon of Texas has the ball, and he's going places. A Longhorn pass. Tompkins to Vikukel catches the Sooners flat-footed, and Oklahoma's victory streak is in real jeopardy when Townsend completes the distance to put Texas in the lead. If the Steers can hold on, there's a big upset in the making. But then a Texas fourth down kick is smeared, and Oklahoma takes possession. With minutes left to play, Vessels sets sail, and the Sooners squeeze through by 1 point.
An armed attack on the governor's palace in Puerto Rico is destined to have repercussions in the United States. A nationalist group riddles the UN flag in an attempt on the life of Governor Munoz Marin. Roving bands of rebels prowl the island. Before the shooting is over, more than 40 are dead, including insurrectionists, police, and National Guardsmen called out to quell the uprising. Out of a minority group of 400, 6 conspirators stormed the palace to be met by a hail of bullets. Those not mowed down were captured. The frantic faction demands complete independence for Puerto Rico and adopts violent methods. The ringleader pays for the attack with his life. The campaign of terror washes onto American shores, where 2 partisans attempt to shoot their way into Blair House to assassinate President Truman. In a flaming gun battle during which 20 shots were fired, Oscar Collazo lies desperately wounded at the steps of the presidential residence. One of the would-be assassins pays with his life. He is Griselio Torresella, who fell before the guns of Blair House guards. A missing picket gives evidence of a bullet's path. The president was warned away from a window during the height of the duel when the terrorists stormed the guards with blazing guns. Policeman Leslie Caulfield lies mortally wounded after the exchange, a man who laid down his life for the president. At the hospital, 2 other wounded police and the second assassin are treated under guard. Collazo, under Secret Service questioning, readily admits the assassination attempt and is held on murder charges. Shortly after, however, the president, accompanied by Secretary of Defense Marshall, appears at Arlington Cemetery for ceremonies honoring the late Sir John Dill, Britain's wartime field marshal, whose widow is present for this historic occasion, the unveiling of a statue of her husband, one of World War II's most outstanding heroes. While a calm president greets Lady Dill in Washington, Secret Service agents take Mrs. Collazo and her daughters into custody in New York. Mrs. Collazo remains defiant, backing her husband's attempt, the 6th attack on the life of a United States president. But the matter is not yet closed, as Secret Service Chief Huey Bauman emphasizes at a press conference, during which letters from the rebel leader, Pedro Campos, taken from the assassins, are produced. But the most graphic accounts of the bloody battle on Blair House steps are told in the words of the presidential guards, as they give the details to their chief.
A definite plot to assassinate the President of the United States was foiled today. Floyd, you were on the spot. You shot one of these assassins. Tell me just what happened.
One of the men went by our post on the east side of the Blair House, Chief, and when he was about 10 feet away from Officer Birdsell, he pulled his gun and started shooting at the officer. Officer Davidson and I immediately pulled our guns and started shooting.
Well, when this man passed your post, did he act unusual or do anything unusual that he would attract attention?
No, sir. He looked like one of the normal tourists coming into town at this time of year.
Campus capers at Columbia College. Embattled Softs take a stand at the foot of a greased pole, atop which is a dummy wearing a freshman cap. The frosh, considering this an insult, are as determined to remove the offending beanie as the Softs are to defend it. And so the annual collegiate battle known as the Freshman-Sophomore Rush is joined. It's a wingding affair with no holds barred. An extracurricular Donnybrook where higher education stands for naught and an undergrad majors in mayhem for a day. A frosh tries and fails. He flunked down. The cap and gown set are glad they wore old clothes, for anything goes right now, pants included. But the frosh are victorious. The offending beanie is removed. They get no diplomas for this, but for some, a sheepskin sure would help. German motorcycle aces are out for one of the big races of the year, the Blue Ribbon of Bavaria. It's got all the ingredients, speed and spills. There's danger on every dusty round, but these daredevils just lap it up and pour on more coal. Things have been going along smoothly for a long time, but trouble comes with a rush. He escapes with a minimum of injury and a maximum of sympathy. Snorty, the sea lion, puts his seal of approval on mermaids at the Aquarena in San Marcos, Texas, then proceeds to give them all the deep six. It's Snorty's way of saying, "Oh, oh, oh. Let's go swimming." Because next to eating fish, swimming is his favorite occupation, and Snorty is good at it. Why, throw a saddle over him and he'll take you for a ride. The Aquarena provides a novel glimpse of life under the briny. Spectators sit in a kind of submarine theater that is lowered under the surface. And down here, you see the sea lions in their element. It's a three-ring circus when Snorty goes into his act. Whoops-a-daisy. At the White House in Washington, top defense officials of the nation gather to discuss the gravest world crisis since Poland and Pearl Harbor. The flagrant aggression of Chinese communist troops in Korea arouses the country's ire. With the North Korean bandits well under control and with the promise that UN troops would be withdrawn, the unexpected entry of 300,000 Red Chinese across the Manchurian border may well precipitate World War III. President Truman voices his accusation of red imperialism.
The forces of the United Nations are in Korea to put down an aggression that threatens not only the whole fabric of the United Nations, but all human hopes of peace and justice. If the United Nations yields to the forces of aggression, no nation will be safe or secure. If aggression is successful in Korea, we can expect it to spread throughout Asia and Europe and to this hemisphere. We are fighting in Korea for our own national security and survival. We have committed ourselves to the cause of a just and peaceful world order through the United Nations. We stand by that commitment.
On the battlefront in Korea, United Nations forces fight desperately to meet the Red attack. Here our troops must face what General MacArthur has termed a new war. Outnumbered more than 2-to-1 by Chinese and North Koreans, the UN forces hope to regroup and to meet the overwhelming attack which has broken their fluid lines of defense across northern Korea. The president has stated that the use of the atomic bomb is being considered to halt the communist onrush inspired by Russia. His hope is that the employment of this devastating weapon will be unnecessary, but the final hope lies with the United Nations. At a momentous meeting at Lake Success, the Red Chinese delegation from Peking hear themselves charged with every crime on the calendar of aggression by Ben C. Lim, representative of the Republic of Korea. While Mr. Lim talks, the delegation, whose hordes are threatening world peace, refuse to take their seats and face their accuser.
I point my finger at these representatives of the Chinese Communist regime, and I ask, why do they come here with unclean hands? I ask again, why does this group come here with hands that drip with blood, the blood of the United Nations troops, the blood of the Korean people?
Blocking a United Nations motion to order communist Chinese armies to leave Korea, the Russians used 3 vetoes. On each of the votes, Russia's Jacob Malik was the only dissenting voice. The United States, represented by Chief Delegate Warren Austin, took up the debate and further accused the Chinese Reds of aggression in Korea.
It is no exaggeration to say that that problem is the gravest one now confronting the world. That problem is this: will there be peace or war in the Far East? The world awaits anxiously the answer to this question.
20,000 fans jammed the Sports Palace in Paris for a 10-round non-title bout between France's Gene Stock and Sugar Ray Robinson of New York. A body blow hurts the Frenchman, but he holds on gamely against the welterweight champ who's making his European debut. Clubbed to the canvas by a sharp left jab. But he comes back for more, and if there's any doubt about the outcome, it's not shared by the fight fans. Sugar Ray's punishing blows to the body floor the Frenchman a second time. Dazed and dumbfounded by the fury of his adversary's attack, Stock still manages to get a grip on himself and get up at the count of 7. He's down a third time at 2 minutes of the second round. Again, the referee starts his count, and again the plucky Frenchman manages to stagger to his feet. But then his manager throws in the towel. His man has had enough. And for Sugar Ray Robinson, his Continental debut is a huge and speedy success. To a picturesque church in the Austrian Alps at Oberndorf near Salzburg, villagers come to lift their hearts in song. To them, this famous Christmas carol has special meaning. It was composed here in Oberndorf in 1818 by Father Franz Gruber, school teacher and parish priest.
have been some of the highlights of 1950. The United States helps to defend the embattled Republic of South Korea. Draftees are called up. General MacArthur commands American forces, and he pushes the communist invaders back into North Korea. President Truman considers using the atomic bomb against attacking Chinese troops. We've seen the beginning of another tragic war in 1950. 1951 will see the combatants try to end the war, but fail.